Okay, so now we're recording. Okay, so hopefully most people have an Apricot account already. But if not, you can just let me know and I could get you set up with a guest one if you're an intern. Just to back up for a sec, so Apricot is our client database. In addition to having all of our client info in there, we also have volunteer information, grants, employers, students, like our ESL paid students, and trainers. So there's a lot going on in there. And a lot to know. But on this call, I'll just be going over some like basic stuff that's hopefully relevant to most people. Most programs have kind of specific forms, like specific intakes and things like that. But I'm going to be going over kind of the main forms that like all of the programs use, or most of the programs use. And also I just wanted to say everything in Apricot was built pretty much. So if you're ever going through and you find like a typo or something weird or wrong, like let me know, because I can always change pretty much everything in there. So most of the staff have standard accounts, which gives you access to everything within your programs. And then most interns have guest accounts, which gives you access to client profiles, case note logs, needs assessments, the general appointment scheduler, and the health appointment scheduler. So I'll be going over those and some other ones as well. But I just wanted to clarify the difference between those two types of accounts. Okay, so let me share my screen. Okay, so let me know if you can't see that, but hopefully you can. Okay, so actually let me just skip that over there. Okay, so first of all, well, this is my account, so it has a lot. Probably when you log in, you don't see like every single thing that I'll be looking at on my screen. But so when you get to the main page, one of the things to note is that there's two tabs up here, which I don't think you'll have the second if you have a guest account, but if you have a staff account, you should have the administrator tab as well. And in the My Apricot one, this is what you'll be using to access clients, households, and then any of these other ones that you have access to. Again, you probably don't have access to all of them, but since I'm on an admin account, I can see them all. But that's there. And then also My Reports is something that you'll want to potentially be using, and also My Shared Files. And those are kind of the main three on My Apricot. And then if you're on the administrator view, again, I have a lot more than most people, but what you'll probably have is the Report Center. And from there you can look at reports, and that's where you would be able to edit reports. If you're under My Apricot and go to reports, from there you can view them. But if you're under administrator and go to My Reports, then you can edit them. One other kind of general thing to know is this section at the top. That's all sites. And right now I have it on all of the programs. So it says that, but if I click this little pencil icon, then I can select whichever program is the one that I want to view. So for example, if I wanted to view all of the clients that are in anti-human trafficking, I would click on that. And now if I went to client profile and started searching for a client, only the clients that are tied to the anti-human trafficking program would come up. Or, you know, if I then switch that to Bridge to Wellness, then when I searched, only the clients that are tied to Bridge to Wellness would come up. And clients can be tied to multiple programs if they're cross-enrolled. And also what this does, okay, so if I was under Bridge to Wellness and then I went to a client and created some sort of new form under them, it would usually automatically tie to whatever's the default up here. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Usually when I'm just searching or pulling reports or something, I keep it under all programs just so I have access to everything that I need to. One other thing, when you go to the main page, some people have bulletins. And when we were in the office, we had sort of like a weekly bulletin with things that were happening in the office. But right now that's not functioning. But some caseloads and things show up here, depending on which program you're in. If you're in housing, there's a bulletin, for example. Okay, so just to start out with basics here, one of the most common things to do is to search for a client. So to do that, go to the main page again. To do that, under the My Apricot tab, you would go to Search Records, Client Profile, and then right now I have it coming up to search by legal name, but you could actually search by other things as well. If I click this little X, get rid of that, and maybe I want to search by, I don't know, gender. Then I could, you know, look up male, and then all of the clients who have male marked for their gender would come up. But usually the name is what I use, but you can search by all of these other options, or you can search by program enrollment and other things like that. So let's see. One other thing you can do on this screen is you can start a new client profile. So first, if you have a new client, first I would type their name in here and see if they come up to double check that you're not going to create a duplicate. But if you do check and they don't have a profile, then you can click the new client profile. And then this screen comes up. And all of the things that have the little stars are required, and everything that's not is kind of nice to fill in, but not required. But some things are like really helpful. For example, email would probably be really helpful. And I added this recently because we're also asking people when they create a client profile to go ahead and create a household profile at the same time, because we are collecting important information there. So, you know, pretty much fill this out. Hopefully everything is pretty self-explanatory. But if anyone has any questions at any time, please let me know. Okay, let's see. So if you create the profile or fill in all the information and then click Save Record, and that would save it. Oh, and also, let me just click on, if I had been under anti-human trafficking at the top here, like I selected earlier, then you can see over on the right-hand side, under Assigned Programs, it's showing anti-human trafficking, because that's the program that I'm currently under at the top. But if I switched it to Education, then that also changes the assigned programs over on the right-hand side. So for most forms, whatever program you're under at the top also links it to like the assigned programs or the permissions. So that's something to keep in mind. Although if you do have it open to all and you don't want to have to bother with changing it at the top, you can always click on this program access button here. And then you can pull over like whichever programs you need it to be under, click apply, and then it updates. Or if you're like, oh wait, this client doesn't need to be under health access, then you can remove them. So that thing, oops, that little box on the, oh my gosh. There we go. The little box on the right-hand side there, assign programs, that is about the permissions. So if I saved this client under IRP, under the Employment Readiness Program, and then someone from Bridge to Wellness went to the search and tried searching for this client, they wouldn't see them because they don't have the ERP permission. So this is all about the permissions and who can see which form. And this, I'm on the client profile right now, but this little box is on every single form in Apricot. Okay, so that's the client profile. So after you create a new client profile, the next step would be to create a household. So let me go to the households, and it's the same type of thing. You can search by name or other options here. To create a new household, I recently redid this, so it looks a little bit different, but it still has the head of household. So you'll just sort of pick who the head of household is, someone that makes sense, and then enter the date of birth, and that's just required in case there's a head of household who has the same name as another head of household, that because it's a duplicate check, the head of household and the date of birth. And then you'll enter household size. We had this in a few different forms here and there in Apricot, and it was a little inconsistent who had that information, but now it lives here, so hopefully we should be getting more consistent information on that. And we also have what is the household's current monthly income range, and we have ranges, so hopefully it's a little easier to respond to instead of typing in like a specific number. And there is this little question mark here, which you can hover over just to clarify that income is gross income, which is income before taxes. And then moving along, the next section, basically we want to know everyone who's in the household. So for this first part, you can link folks who already have Apricot profiles as well. So if this person had a partner who was enrolled in another program or perhaps the same program, then you would click this little add button, and all of the clients who have client profiles in Apricot come up, and you can search for the name. And this is, if you haven't noticed already, I use fake a lot. That's a fake client. So I'll click on fake, and that, oh, well, I guess I already have fake tied to another account, but if it was a new person, then that would work here. Actually, let me go back to the existing one. Okay, so this is the existing household for fake, and as you can see, I linked the client profile to the household profile. And then if there were any other household members, you could also link them here. And there's also a little definition of household, because I know we got some questions on that before, who exactly is a household member. And then if there were any like kids or other people who live within the households but they don't have profiles, then you can add them down here and just add their name, their date of birth, so that way we have you enter date of birth instead of age, just so we can always know the current person's age, and then relationship if you have that. But I would say that the person's name and the date of birth are the most important. And we don't really have this right now, so we're really hoping to kind of build this up, because there have been some questions, well, how many households have kids under 5 or something like that, and right now we just don't really know. So that's something we're kind of trying to have better info on. And if you have more household members, you can click yes, and then some more options pop up. I don't think anyone else has more than that, but if you do, you could let me know and I could always add an additional field. And one other, so right now we're sort of looking at the top level forms: client, household, student, class, etc. client and household are definitely the ones that most people will be using. Unless you're in education, then you might also be using the student one. But one other one that we're using more these days is the partner profile. So if you click on that, this has a list of partners, like other organizations that we refer clients to. And we have an intern right now who's going through all of them and kind of trying to update the information. So if you wanted to, for example, search by type of organization, maybe you want to refer the client to, I don't know, maybe you're looking for landlords. Then you can click the landlord button, and every partner who has been selected as a landlord will come up in this list. And some of them have more information filled in. Like I said, I think we're kind of trying to make this a more robust resource, but right now it should even still be kind of helpful. You can click on these different things, and we're also trying to fill out more of the neighborhood served so that you can search by that as well. If you have a partner who doesn't have an account, you can create one by going to the new partner profile over here. And I think it's pretty basic information, address, things like that. And if there's any particular age or audience that's being served, we also are, this is a new edition, we're going to start trying to track which serve folks without status, so we can have a better idea of which clients, or where we can send clients without status. And yeah, a lot of good stuff there.
Carolyn.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to ask, do interns have access to like the partner profile?
They don't. Yeah, unfortunately they don't. So you would have to access the partner profile, you would have to like borrow an account of a staff member or someone like that. Yeah, the intern guest accounts only have access to the client profile and then a few forms under the client profile. Yeah. And yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions, please speak up. Okay, so like I said before, these are kind of they're called tier 1 forms, like these profile forms that show up here. But then under each profile, there's a document folder. So when you search for example, a client, it comes up with the name and then these other pieces of information. And if you click on the green name, it'll take you to the profile. But let me go back. But if you click on any of these other boxes, it will take you to the document folder, which is loading slowly. There it goes. And this has all of the they're called tier 2 forms under the tier 1 profile. So, so some of the ones that are accessed a lot here are the case note log and the program enrollment. So those are up at the top. And then there's a whole lot of other ones, which you'll only see whatever you have access to, but there's a lot. So case note logs, you'll probably use a lot. If you click on this little green plus sign for any of them, it'll expand what's already existing. So this fake person only has one case note log, and this is when it was entered. And then it has like 3 program enrollments. And again, this is depending on permissions. So if for example, you were looking at this client, but you didn't have access to the education program, you would only see this top one, the program enrollment. But if you want to create a new program enrollment or new case note log or any of these, then you click on the little plus sign thing over on the right here. And again, it looks pretty similar with the record options up here where you can save. You can go back to search, and here's the assign programs box again. Because I'm in all programs at the top, it's making all of the programs assigned, but if I only want it to be on certain programs, then I can select like whichever one, let's say herb. So that's the permissions, and then you just fill it out. Again, it's the little stars are the required. For some forms have links like this. It's kind of like the household where you, for this example, you select your client's name to auto-populate the age. And when you select it, it says link added right there. And then you click out of that, and this field has now been entered because it pulled it from the link. So some forms have that going on where you select a link and then it auto-populates some information so that you don't have to go look it up or, you know, ask the person again. And let's see. So yeah, you would fill out all that. And then for the program enrollment, where is it? Funding source, you'll always want to enter the funding source because, for example, some programs like PPR have different funding sources for different clients. So you'll want to make sure that you're selecting the correct program as well. Yeah, program enrolled, as well as the correct funding source. Some programs just have one funding source, but some have multiple ones. So make sure that you're getting that correct. And then when you're just enrolling a client, you'll leave this bottom section blank, but it's important to enter this exit date when the client does, when their case closes, because a lot of reports that I run or that other people run, how we get an idea of how many current clients there are is by the enrollment date and the exit date. If the client has an empty exit date, I'm going to assume that they're still open. So it's important to enter that exit date when the client has closed. Let's see. Okay, let me go back to the main folder. Sometimes this page takes a little long to load. One other form that you may be doing is the full needs assessment. That one is a little bigger than some of the other ones. But, you know, again, it has the same assigned programs on the side. That's something that you'll always see. I just updated this recently, so if you did it before, you may see some changes. The sections have been switched around a little bit, but you know, most things are pretty much the same. There's only certain types of fields that you can use in Apricot. So there's going to be a drop down, an address, you know, you'll start seeing kind of some of the same types of fields. This one has a little bit of a different thing down at the bottom here, which is a full needs assessment follow-up. Most programs do the full needs assessment every 90 days. So this already comes up with, so if you're filling it out today, 7/20, then it'll automatically populate that 90 days from now is October 18th. And if you just want to save that or note that on your own, that's fine. But if you want a calendar reminder to kind of pop up and remind you when that date actually happens, then you can fill out this little section. And if you click on this, it'll just show you a screenshot of what that looks like. But basically you would just like write, you know, anything that would be helpful for you. So like a reminder for needs assessment for client fake. And then for the date, you would just copy and paste that in there. You could set whatever time you wanted it to remind you. So say you wanted to be reminded at 9 a.m., just enter the same date twice. And then enter your email address. and then any other notes you wanted to add. And then when you save this form, you'll get a calendar invite to your email, and then you can just save it, and it'll be on your calendar. So then when this date comes, you'll get a reminder and it'll be there. This calendar reminder thing is also now on the SSIT, the Self-Sufficiency Indicator tool, and the RHS 15. I think that's all. So let me see what else I was going to, oh yeah. Well, I was going to go over the financial request form, but there's an error on it today, so I have to skip that one, unfortunately. But if anyone is working on that one and has any questions, just let me know. The financial request form is used if you need to request a check or a credit card in lieu of a check if the client doesn't have a bank account. And basically you just, fill out the questions if it's needs-based or whatever, and then submit that, and then it automatically goes to the manager email address that you input, and then they sign it. And then it goes to our financial organization and they cut the check. And that's down here. But like I said, there's an ongoing issue with it today, unfortunately, so I can't show you. But hopefully that'll be fixed in the next couple days. So the other forms that interns have access to are this general appointment scheduler and also the health appointment scheduler. The health appointment scheduler you'll probably use if you're on the health team, and I don't know if you would use it otherwise. And the general appointment scheduler, I'm not sure actually which teams use it, but it kind of looks very similar to what was at the bottom of the needs assessment. You just enter the name, the date, the time, the location, and then it gets sent to the calendar. And okay, and as I mentioned before, there's some team specific forms which I'm a little bit less familiar with, but you can always ask your supervisor if you have any questions, or again, if something looks weird or it's behaving strangely, you can reach out to me because I can always make edits to any of them. But for example, there's the anti-human trafficking service plan, bridge to wellness needs assessment, things like that. So there's a lot of forms. And let's see. So I think that's all of the forms that I was going to specifically look at, but if anyone wants me to go over any others, I can. But a couple other things that I wanted to look at really quickly. This one is pretty basic. If you go to my Apricot tools over on the left side and click on my shared files, you'll find some forms that we have translated. So for example, the agreement for services is available in all of these languages. And there is a form for that within Apricot. Let me just look at that really quickly. So if you go to the document folder, right at the top, there's a little note at the top that says, you can access this in the client's language, but it is in English here. I guess you can't really, it's a little harder to do this stuff now that we're remote, but if you were in person, you could have, if you clicked in person here, then you could have the client sign it, just write in Apricot. But for now, it's a little tricky. You could maybe use our Sign Now site or something. But basically, I just wanted to point out that these forms, most of them are also on SharePoint, but sometimes you have to dig around a little bit in SharePoint. So sometimes it's kind of easier to find them here in Apricot. And let's see. Oh yeah, also, let me go back to the main page. Also under my Apricot tools, there's my reports. And I have many, but you'll have some. And some of these can be helpful. For example, I think almost everyone should have access to the case manager check request report. So if you go to that, you can type in your name if you want to see the specific checks that you requested, and you can search by the dates as well for submitted. And then it'll show up, well, I'm gonna try not to show the names of clients, but let me just try and scroll down. Okay, so you'll be able to see like the name of the staff, the client's names, the amount, etc. And if the manager signature name is blank, then you'll know that that one was not signed. So if you've submitted a bunch of check requests and you're like, oh, I don't remember which ones, I don't know which ones are signed, you can go to this report and search for your name as the person requesting the checks, and the dates, and then it should come up all of the ones that you've requested within that time period and if they've been signed or not. There's also some reports, whoops, some reports that are, let's see, I'm trying to find an example. Some programs have like caseload reports. There's an Inspire caseload report. So if you run that, it'll show you the clients that are currently enrolled in Inspire. And just depending on which program you're in, you'll be able to see different ones of these. And I actually have some folks have just their own to kind of like play around with. And if you have this administrator tab up at the top, you can go to Report Center Reports, and then from here it's the same exact list, but you'll be able to edit them. And let me just create a new report really quickly. I'll just put it under mine. So for creating reports, sometimes it's a little tricky to think it out, but basically you can pull in any field that is in any form. So basically over on the right-hand side, you'll see here's the client profile, here's the program enrollment. These are all of the forms that are under the client profile. So it's just the same list, but you would pull in, you could pull in name, date of birth, anything that's in the client profile. I'm going to pull over under systems field, which is just sort of like a tracking thing. You can pull in record ID. I'm just going to do that so it's confidential. And then I could minimize that. You go to the program enrollment, and then I'm going to drag and drop date of enrollment. Let's see, the font is really tiny, sometimes it's hard to program enrolled. And I'm going to expand case closure and pull over exit date. So this will give you, if you'll see here, it says auto run has been turned off. Click here to turn it back on. So I'm going to click there, and that'll just give you like the first few enrollments, but you can see here that there are 3,882 enrollments in Apricot right now, which is a lot. And we probably don't want to see them all. So if you want to filter by a certain program, you could click this little plus here. And let's say we want to do enrollment dates after the first of this year. Okay. And then I mentioned before that the exit date can be important for reports like this, because let's say we want to do exit dates that are empty, which would imply that the person is still enrolled. So now we have, that brought it down to 757. Probably some of them are a little outdated, but we're getting there. And as you can see here also on the record ID, these three are the same, so that's the same person. This person is enrolled in 3 programs. And over on the right side here, if you click save, that'll save it. If you click publish, and run, then that'll show you the entire list. And you can like sort by program and things like that. So basically anything that's in Apricot that's captured in a field, you can pull into a report, which can be pretty useful. And there are like, reports are kind of quirky and weird. So sometimes, so if you're ever trying to create one and you have any questions, like feel free to let me know. And, you know, occasionally I set up meetings with people and we work on a specific report that somebody needs for a grant or something like that. I'm happy to do that. But I think that's kind of a basic overview of reports. And I think I went over most of the main forms as well. I don't know, does anyone have any questions about anything? I know there's a lot in Apricot. Oh, well, I could go over this really a little bit as well. So I mentioned all of the, if you go to a client profile and you have the document folder like we saw before, but all of the profiles have a number of documents under them. So if you go to household, do the same thing, click on one of these. There'll be a number of options here as well for things that we do per household as opposed to per client. So for example, a lot of the food pantry stuff is tied to the household because we want to make sure that we're not giving packages of food to like multiple clients in the same household. So the food pantry referrals are tied to the household as a whole. And the partner profile has a few things as well, not as many. But if there is a program where you have a flyer, you can upload it here. We're currently, me and Danielle Bossert are currently working on updating this outreach tracker, but eventually this will be used if there's like a training at a certain location, so you can track number of attendees, length of time, that kind of thing. And we also have this partner case note log, which functions basically as a client case note log, except it's for an organization. So for example, if this organization, maybe they got a new executive director and you wanted to note that, you could just add in that information. And then maybe if you leave NSC, or maybe you just forgot the conversation that happened or whatever, anyone can go back and look at this and see the latest thing that happened with that partner. Yeah. I think that's pretty much the basics. Yeah. So unless anyone has any questions, I think that's pretty much all I had. And this is recorded also. So I think Gwen will be sharing it so that if you wanted to look back at it, you could as well. But I think that's it. So let me stop sharing. And all right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. And I hope you learned something. And always feel free to reach out to me if you have any Apricot questions, or chat me on Teams. I'm available. Okay, cool. Thanks. Have a good day, everyone.
Carolyn.
Thank you.
Thanks.